French forces have left the city of Timbuktu, the latest sign the former colonial power is scaling down its presence in northern Mali nearly 9 years after a military intervention that helped push back fighters that have overrun parts of the country. Mali now faces the major task of deciding how to fight off Islamic extremists who have posed a security threat for years. After the French withdrawal, residents fear being abandoned in a situation they see as similar to Afghanistan with the departure of American troops after the Taliban takeover. French legionnaires and Malian troops captured Timbuktu in February 2013 after an 8-month Islamist occupation. Since August 2014, Paris has deployed around 5,100 troops across the Sahel region as part of the Barkhane operation, helping to support local governments and their poorly equipped forces fight an ever-growing Islamist insurgency. The conflict has spilled over into neighboring Burkina Faso and Niger, where attacks occur regularly against civilian and military targets. France's recent decision to pull troops out of key hubs in Mali has raised questions about the future as militants expand their operations in the countryside. French President Emmanuel Macron announced a major reduction to the number of French troops in June after a military takeover in Mali in August 2020 that ousted the elected President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta. France's military deployment in the Sahel is due to fall to about 3,000 troops by next year. French forces already left bases in the northern Malian towns of Kidal and Tessalit in November. Whether France's mission can be described as a military success to date is a sensitive question. Outside the city, locals appear to have come to terms with the jihadists, said security officials and Western diplomats. An acceptance of their legitimacy, at least among locals, may have also decreased violence. Still, tourists cannot travel outside the city without an armed escort. Most jihadists in the region are affiliated with Al-Qaeda. In their propaganda, they boast that they control the territory and have won the hearts of locals. In some rare cases, a Timbuktu resident told the media that many people prefer to use the Islamic court system rather than the official one. One Islamic judge, Houka Ag al-Husseini, remains active in the area despite figuring on a United Nations sanctions list for having worked in a similar capacity during the jihadist occupation of Timbuktu. On a political level, Mali is also facing a period of instability, having been through 2 military coups in the space of a year. Mali's Foreign Affairs Ministry has said that Chad planned to deploy 1,000 additional UN peacekeepers to Mali to reinforce its troops battling armed groups in the former French colony. Chadian soldiers make up nearly 1,400 of the UN's 13,000-troop peacekeeping force in the north and central Mali, where an armed rebellion has escalated despite a 9-year effort by an international coalition to subdue it. The upcoming deployment will reinforce those and other Chadian troops as France scales back its 5,000-strong regional counterterrorism mission known as Barkhane. Chad government spokesperson Azim Bermendoua told that additional troops would soon be sent to Mali, but he declined to specify the size of the contingent or a deployment timeline. He said, "After the withdrawal of French troops, we found it urgent to strengthen the operational and tactical capacity of our contingent while waiting for the Malian army and the UN Blue Helmets to reorganize their deployments." Chad deployed some 1,000 soldiers to the tri-border region of Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali in February to reinforce national armies after France first publicly mulled reducing its regional presence. The United Nations Multidimensional Integrated Stabilization Mission in Mali began its deployment to the troubled Sahel state in 2013. It has 16,500 personnel, including 10,700 troops. On the other side, the US has announced that the Russian Wagner Group is actively acting in Mali with its Wagner Group. The announcement said, "We are alarmed by a potential deployment of Russia-backed Wagner Group forces in Mali. We understand that the reported deal costing $10 million per month diverts money that could be used to support the Malian armed forces and public services to pay for the deployment of Yevgeny Prigozhin's Wagner Group forces to Mali." Wagner forces, which are known for their destabilizing activities and human rights abuses, will not bring peace to Mali, but rather will destabilize the country further. There is deep international concern over Mali's discussions with the controversial Russian private military company, but many Malians feel the Russians cannot replace French troops soon enough. The group was first identified in 2014 when it was backing pro-Russian separatists in the conflict in eastern Ukraine. Since then, it has been involved in countries including Syria, Mozambique, Sudan, Libya, and the Central African Republic. The international consternation over a deal with Wagner is linked to the shadowy reputation of the mercenary organization. The Russian government's denial of links to the group is also treated with suspicion. However, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has confirmed that Mali had turned to a private military company from Russia to help fight jihadist groups. If the deal with Mali does go ahead, it would signal a major expansion of Russia's military interests in Africa and a strategic setback for the West. The deployment of Russian military contractors would signal a profound break with France and the West. Mali and Russia have maintained close ties in recent years, especially since 1994 when they signed a defense cooperation agreement which was revised in 2019. Defense Minister Sadio Kamara and some leading coup perpetrators were trained in Russia. He welcomed the arrival of 4 military helicopters from Russia, which he described as a friendly country with which Mali has always maintained a very fruitful partnership. He said this was part of a deal agreed in December 2020 long before the French drawdown was announced. The Russian involvement could also be a convenient excuse for Mali's interim government to extend its term in office following the military takeover. Mali's transitional authorities appeared to have negotiated for up to 1,000 Russian mercenaries to arrive in Mali to conduct training, close protection, and counterterrorism operations. This extensive presence would reportedly be paid for by concessions to Wagner Group or related companies on several mines for an estimated minimum of €10 million a month, although the actual cost could be much higher. In response, France, Germany, and the European Union all made their displeasure plain, issuing strong statements condemning the move. The EU has laid the groundwork for sanctions against Wagner Group and those working with it if it officially begins operations in Mali. The Soviet Union and later Russia maintained enduring defense, educational, and other relationships with Mali, including training and equipment programs, supply and maintenance contracts for weapon systems, and scholarships. The Malian government could be trying to leverage French and US fears of Russian dominance on the continent to serve its interests. While this dangerous power play could have very dangerous consequences for the civilian population, France and the United States have the opportunity to avoid falling into the great power competition trap by recrafting their engagement to effectively address the roots of the conflict. Whether or not the Russians are sent to Mali, jihadist groups, which recently celebrated the exit of the US from Afghanistan and drew parallels with the French drawdown in West Africa, could seek to exploit the instability and scale up their attacks, prompting a fresh crisis in Mali and its neighbors. This is time to share your opinion. Can Russia bring stability to the region?